What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at IEM Katowice 2024 playoffs. I'll go over what I did for the groups first. I did a video on play-in, and I did loading. It's loading like this. I put a lot of my eggs into the VP basket. They lost. Didn't make it through. So that's gonna hurt me, but at least the individuals, the three individuals I went for, Perfecto, Process, Chopper, all did pretty okay. Especially Chopper did very well. So still at top 30%, which I'm pretty okay with. It's just disappointing with VP. And then for the group stage, I didn't have time to make a video because the gap between the plane and groups was so small. Desertion was really good for me. Brokey was okay, and everyone else was kind of not there. Monty lost to Gamer Legion in the first game. I really thought they would win that one, or at least they would keep it very close, but they got 2-0'd. Bro and Demka, at least individually, were okay. They were kind of cheap, so I'm okay that they didn't get a ton of points. Rain, I'm very disappointed in just for the last game. Before the last game, he was looking pretty good, and then they got destroyed by Spirit, so that happens. And yeah, 1% off 2 extra points, which is also a bit sad. But that's what just happens sometimes. Now for playoffs. Go look at the bracket. So this is the bracket, which I think is pretty interesting in that Ens and Falcons. I think Ens is actually the favorite versus Falcons. It's pretty 50-50, but I see Ens as slight favorites just based on the form they've shown. I think they're gonna win against Falcons, even though it's gonna be close. And then I think either team out of these two is gonna get crushed by Spirit. I don't think either of them really has much of a chance, unless Donk really crumbles on stage, which I don't think is gonna happen at all. But yeah, I would say double Spirit probably is just the way to go from that side of the bracket. I think they're very likely winners of the whole event based on what we've seen so far. Of course, by the way, in the previous both fantasies, Donk would have been worth it for the money. But I ended up going for different routes, unfortunately. And I am not going to go for Donk this time around either. But I think this time around it's gonna be, I'm less afraid of Donk just because the price is so high. Donk is so expensive now. It's hard to make a good team with Donk in it. The other side of the bracket is pretty stacked. So FaZe G2, of course, neither of the teams has been on their best. I think FaZe has still looked better than G2. They're favorites in terms of bookie odds. I think money-wise, they make more sense for the most part. I think there's better individuals to pick from. I think everyone on FaZe is a decent option. I wouldn't probably go towards Rops, but essentially everyone else is, I think, pickable. Whereas on G2, I think Hooksy you can pick. You could go for a lot of these players, I guess, but it's you really don't know what you're getting with Hunter or Nico. I think or Nexa really, and then Hooksy is actually doing okay, and Monesi is pretty expensive, but at least he's probably gonna deliver as well. It's just that I think FaZe is gonna probably beat G2, and that's why I'm probably going for them. Because they have if they beat G2, I think they're probably about 50-50 versus Mouse, probably a bit favored. Mouse have impressed me for sure. I think they're looking better than I expected with the Brolan move. It's just that going 4 players who are directly in semis is limiting the potential amount of points you could get quite a lot. If Mouse lose against FaZe or G2, it's really that's really bad for the most part. It also allows me to go for one cheaper player from Ens Falcons, and probably gonna be Ens for me, just because I think they're slight favorites. I've been looking at a lot of different lineups. I think it's a difficult event to make a lineup for. So if you want to go Donk, you kind of have to go Chopper. I think you almost have to go double G2 with Huxi Nexa. And then you still have to pick a 191 player, like a Glaive, for example. It's not a lineup I'd like to pick. I think the problem is that this is like the problem with donk lineups, is that you have to kind of go towards this kind of lineup. You could go mouse. I probably wouldn't go towards Prolan. Like, it's hard to say. It depends on how the money lines up. You could go for Broland for sure. Tui is also decent as an option. Also home crowd buff. Hoshi Jimpat, I would go for. Yeah, it's Zershan who I probably wouldn't go for, just because I think his rating got, or price got pretty inflated by how well he played previously in this event. So you could go for like Tui, Torji. From Spirit, if I'm going double Spirit, I think these are the two players I really want to have. Hero and Chopper. Shui, Torji, and probably Carrigan as the fifth. Like, something like this seems like a very okay lineup. You can go, of course, Zershan here, but I actually probably prefer Torji or Zershan for this. I think there's one lineup that really stands out to me that I was looking at, or there's actually the first iteration was this, where I go Carrigan, Rain, Chopper, Shiro, and Hades. That uses all your money. I think Rain is very cheap for what he could bring. He had a pretty poor last stage of the event, but it's a LAN playoff in front of a crowd. FaZe usually shows up for events like that, or like matches like that. Carrigan is actually quite consistent in terms of what he puts out, in terms of like event ratings. Like you can see here that for the last event, like he's been pretty much up in that 0.9 rating range, and really consistently gets there. Rain had a really good blast before this event, so I don't know why he couldn't do well here. Chopper has been so impressive, and for 195, even for 195, I think he's definitely, he could be the best bang for your buck player. Also, he has good roles in terms of like support and such. Shiro, just like 218. I think Shiro is actually undervalued in this event. I think he should be more expensive. I think there's a couple players who I think are a bit mispriced. I can go over those in a second. But first, like, also Hades, really impressed in the last stage, except for the last game against Mouse. He's just a very decent AWPer. The only problem I have with this lineup is that ENCE, even if they beat Falcons, it's probably going to be a pretty tight affair, so I'm not sure how high of a rating Hades can have. And then I think they're going to get kind of like, I think Spirit is going to quite easily beat ENCE or Falcons in the next stage. You're still putting over 200k on a player that either gets eliminated first, which I don't think is going to happen, but even if he gets to the next stage, he's probably going to get some minus points there, if I'm being honest. So I don't think Hades is quite worth it in my eyes. He could be, like, it's completely possible that Hades, even in losing, gets like 1.1 rating, and then that's really worth it. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go a different route with that. In terms of like undervalued players, I think Rain is underpriced. I think he should be around the 207k or something, 205k maybe point. So that's why I really look at this and I'm like, 200k for Rain seems like great value. Other players, not sure. Torshi seems like he should be more expensive, but also I'm not sure about what the stats say about that. Just looks so convincing at one stage. He's maybe fallen off that form a bit. And then in the other hand, I think Zershan is overpriced now. I think G2 is quite fairly priced for the most part. It's just that I don't see any of them as great. See, it's like only Monesi I think is like a great option. His Nico can definitely just go missing. He could also completely pop off. It's all possible. And I think Huxi is maybe the safest choice apart from Monesi. He's actually been quite decent in his role. Falcons prices, I don't know what they're based on, but I also just don't think they're gonna do well. I don't think they're gonna beat Ents even. They only got through because Navi kind of shit the bed. For Spirit, I think Shiro is underpriced, and then everyone else is pretty fairly priced. They are like the second lowest ranked team in the event, so the prices have to be a bit lower. But that plays well for anyone who has been watching the games and thinks that Spirit is gonna kind of win the event. Like me, I do think Spirit's gonna win the event, so going double Spirit is a kind of a no-brainer for me. And yeah, Donk is priced to infinity because there's a good reason for it. If you've been watching what's been happening, he's crazy, and can't wait to see what he does in playoffs. And then Ens. I think maybe even a bit higher price than I thought. They were pretty convincing in the last stage for the most part. And yeah, I mean, the prices are a bit high. But I'll still show you my lineup, which still has an Ens player. I think this is the lineup that I'm going for. So it's very similar to what I showed earlier. But instead of Hades and Chopper, I now have Glaive and Zontix. I think it just takes the risk of your fifth player losing against Spirit here. Because most players are going to have to play against Spirit. And if Glaive kind of gets crushed there, it's not the end of the world. Because I think I have 4 other players who are probably going to do well. I think Shiro's going to do very well. I think Zontic's going to do very well. I think Rain's going to do well. I think Kerrigan's going to be in that ±0 territory after rolls and boosters. And then Glaive can be, like, if Glaive pops off against his old teammates in Magisk and Zonic, that's a nice little storyline as well. I'll show you like a safer option. I think the safe option is actually going double mouse and double Spirit. I think that's the actual safe bet lineup. So perhaps something like this. And the reason for this is that you're kind of minimizing the amount of teams that have to play against Spirit. So the winner of Ens Falcons has to play against Spirit next. If you pick the winner from here, they're still going to have to play Spirit. Whereas if you pick the winner of FaZe G2, they only have to play against Mouse. And that's going to be a tight affair. And I would say Kerrigan has better odds of doing quite decently against Mouse than Snuppy or Glaive against Spirit. So if you want to take the kind of safer route in that way, this is the kind of lineup I would be going for. But the problem with it is that the potential amount of points you're getting, if FaZe G2 make it to the finals, you're losing a lot of potential points because you're not playing in the quarterfinals with 4 of your players. And the 5th one is going to be Kerrigan. So you're kind of just getting the padding points for those. But yeah, I think I'm going to lock in this lineup. Also, what I looked at with this lineup is that the roles work out quite well. Roles work out very well. So Shiro main op. He does still play a lot of op. Then Rain on headshots, I believe was the idea. Yeah, for sure. Really high headshot percentage. Kerrigan, as you can go noob or maybe support. Depends. I just remember that the roles worked out very well here, but I need to actually check what the roles were. Yeah, support Zontix is also decent, or leader Zontix. But I think the idea was going support here. No, or was it actually Glaive on support? That would probably make more sense. No, yes, exactly. Glaive eco-friendly triggers at an insane rate. Like really high rate. So this is the idea. And then Zontix, you go support. And Carrigan, you can go noob. I think it's a decent like hedging of your bets because you're probably getting to the 2-pointer a lot of the time, and sometimes you're gonna get to this max bonus. But I think very rarely you go above 1.12. Like I can't remember many matches for Glaive where it would be 112. Like this is below 112. This should be. This is maybe a bit closer, but yeah, I think very often he's gonna be triggering noob at like a safe rating. Eco-friendly is also not better than for Glaive, definitely. Support is not that great. There's just not a great role for Carrigan. Headshot's actually decent enough, but yeah, I would go noob here. Just hedge my bets. And that's pretty much the lineup. I'll go with boosters as well now. What could be a good feeling? 22. I believe, I mean, Glaive, I don't know, this role is so interesting to me, but I guess this makes sense. I'll go with that. I think he's gonna get some SMG frags against. It's gonna be like a scrappy affair against Falcons, so that makes sense to me that he's gonna get those SMG kills. I'm assuming KASD is pretty good for hero. Actually, Zontic's better on the KASD. Of course, I can actually just not put these boosters yet, because they're only playing in the next stage. But Carrigan and Rain against G2. There's no easy opponents at this stage, of course. I just have to go for like, yeah, the highest trigger rate. Because also G2 definitely might lose this, or FaZe definitely might lose to G2. Just go for like some of the best boosters for each of the players. So yeah, 8 is probably it for Carrigan. Actually, bottom scorecard is maybe better. Yeah, let's go for bottom scorecard. 8 can actually be Rain in it. No, but it can't be Rain. But it could be Zontix maybe. Yeah, bottom scorecard makes the most sense. And then these ones I'll look at when I know who Spirit play between Falcons and Ents. But yeah, that's the lineup. I'm very happy with the way it looks. I was kind of tinkering this lineup late into the evening or late into the night yesterday, and went over a lot of iterations. I showed you a couple of teams. I was looking at G2 quite a lot actually as well, by the way, just because I wanted to make like a Monesi lineup. I was looking at a Nico lineup with Huxi because I actually kind of like Huxi as a pick here. But I ended up going for this because I do have faith in FaZe winning at least the first one. And I have a lot of faith in Spirit, and this allows me to go pretty heavy on Spirit without going for Donk. Yeah, that's the lineup. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this kind of content, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.